Hi, and welcome to another episode of A Conversation with Father Orsi. I'm B.C. Cloutier, president of Action for Life, and this is Father Michael Orsi. Hello, Father.
Hi, how are you doing?
Well, no complaints so far, but it's early in the day.
It sure is.
Father, you and I, in the past week, I guess, have both seen a great movie called Sound of Freedom. And I thought it would be kind of fun to talk about that today.
Be glad to. I don't know if I'd be glad to, as a matter of fact, BC. It was kind of heart-wrenching.
Oh, it is. We won't spoil things if you haven't seen the movie. If you have not seen the movie, I would strongly suggest that you do. It's not about politics. It's about what's going on in the world today, including here in Florida and even in Collier County, where Father and I are based. This movie is so powerful. It stars a guy by the name of Jim Caviezel, who you've probably seen on TV, on CBS, in A Person of Interest, and a few years ago portrayed Jesus Christ in the Passion of the Christ.
Yeah.
Thank you, Father. It's a movie that when you walk away, I think you go, oh my God, how can this be going on?
Yeah, it's devastating. I went to the theater. Well, first let me tell you this, folks. I have not gone to the theater since Les Miserables was playing. And I only went because my sister forced me to go and said it was a wonderful movie. Why? Because I kind of like to come out of the theater feeling good, and most of the time, movies today make me come out feeling badly. However, I had heard so much about this movie that I decided that I should go to see it. And I went to the first showing, and it was at 10:30 in the morning, and I basically had the theater to myself. And thank God I did, because I was crying. I was crying watching this movie. I never thought that the problem of child sex trafficking is as prominent and perverted and devastating as the movie portrayed it.
And we are told by Tim Ballard, who is the Department of Homeland Security special agent on which the movie or the experiences on which the experiences of Tim Ballard are based, we're told that this is a very real depiction. Now, obviously, there's some poet's license that was taken because it's a movie and they have to compress a lot of events into a couple of hours. But this is not fiction.
No, it's not.
It is based on fact and is based on Tim Ballard's own personal experiences.
Yes. You know, what was interesting and very important for me to tell our listeners that the movie took place in Colombia, South America. And a lot of times we think that sex trafficking is only south of the border and it's not here. But really, although there is sex trafficking at the south of the border, and that there is sex trafficking coming through the Rio Grande and our southern border, 86% of sex trafficking takes place right here in our own country amongst Americans. And that, to me, was just an unbelievable number, 86%. And America is a hub for sex trafficking. Now, let me be clear about this. Sex trafficking is not only, how can I say it, in-person trafficking, okay? But for the most part, these incidents are filmed and then they are shipped around the world so that you have some very, very sick people buying these files and viewing these files. So that's 86% of it being done here, and the rest, the 14%, are actually flesh and blood encounters. So I think one of the things that we have to keep in mind when the experts look at this, they tell us that an awful lot of the sex trafficking takes place through or by means of family and friends and amongst or between people with whom the victim is involved.
You know, as we were researching for this program and as we kind of got into this thing, and we're going to make an announcement in a couple of minutes about this issue, I began to research it, and it turns out that this issue is so pervasive that virtually every police department in America has a person or persons who are assigned to human trafficking, which largely involves sex trafficking, but in other instances, it's simply slavery. Not that that's simple. The Catholic diocese, most of them have human trafficking people on staff.
We have one right here in the Diocese of Venice in Florida.
Right. And we, I guess, speaking for myself, I didn't realize how pervasive this issue is until we began to research it. This is it's a huge problem. It's such a huge problem. It is the #1 growing international crime.
Multi-billion-dollar industry.
And it is going to surpass drug trafficking, they think, in the next couple of years.
We know, BC, related to that, an awful lot of sex trafficking takes place and drugs are involved. So in other words, even a parent or a sibling or aunt or an uncle or a friend is willing to sell an underage person to get drugs. And that is one of the great problems that we have in this country, along with the sex trafficking, is the drug trade in this country. And a lot of this drug trade, once again, is coming up through the border. So we have coming up through the border, we have people who are unsavory in many ways. The drug cartels are coming up through the border. But involved with that are also those people who are coming up to sex traffic children. Now, I'm going to say this about the border problem. The statistics, the numbers that I have anyway, are about 450 children come over the border every day. Every day, 450 come over every day, and they are unaccompanied.
Right.
Unaccompanied. Now, about 340 of them are shipped off to foster care. And these foster care facilities are not very well vetted by Health and Human Services. That's our government, Health and Human Services. And the number that they give us now is 60% of those end up in sex trafficking, children's sex trafficking.
I've got some stats for you, brother. This crime was not made illegal in this country until 2000. That alone is astounding. The U.S., Mexico, and the Philippines are the 3 countries that face the worst issues with human trafficking. No official number in the U.S., but as you pointed out, it's hundreds of thousands. It's truly hundreds of thousands of people.
I got this, BC. Just let me interject here, that we have between 17 and 20,000, what the numbers tell us, what's obvious to us, 17 and 20,000 children involved in sex trafficking. However, when we look at this worldwide, we're talking about 200 million children sex trafficked worldwide.
The human trafficking hotline in the U.S. gets 150 calls a day. And here's another interesting factoid. How easy child trafficking is to find. Here's an example. We have all seen this, I'm sure. If you do any interstate driving, as a lot of us Floridians do when we go up north for the summer, you've seen this. Off an interstate, there's a truck stop, an Asian massage, and an adult superstore. That is very likely a child trafficking hotspot.
Holy cow. That's unbelievable.
And we've all seen those billboards, hey, next exit,
Right. Yeah, I saw that certain places, like you said, the truck stops and the massage parlors, but also hotels and motels. And right here in our own area, one of the women involved with trying to help these, for the most part, girls in sex trafficking, although there are boys too, said that many of the hotels and motels just turn a blind eye to the problem.
Until the police show up, if and when they do.
If and when they do. The police have to, know about it.
Right.
People should report things that certainly look suspicious. And it's the responsibility of all of us, if something looks suspicious to you. One of the stories they always tell is that, some child might be being brought in through the airport. Mm-hmm. Right? And Miami's a hub. Port of Miami is a hub. And if you see a child that's kind of looking down and not making eye contact, you might want to alert an officer and say, hey, that doesn't look just right to me. It doesn't hurt. Let the officer go and ask a few questions. Why not? You could save a child a life of horror.
I think all airline frontline employees now have been trained to identify human trafficking for that very reason, that it's so common. Anyway, big announcement coming up on the other side of this. For the moment, we'll take a break. Hi, BC Cloutier here. We've got some exciting news for you. On October 19th, at the Naples Grand Beach Resort, Action for Life presents Jim Caviezel live and in person.
Why are you doing it? Because God's children are not for sale.
The star of Sound of Freedom will be here in Naples, telling us all about the filming of the movie and the real-life experiences of Special Agent Tim Ballard.
Hear that? That's the sound of freedom.
Please join us for a lovely evening with dinner and beverages at the Naples Grand Beach Resort on Thursday, October 19th, beginning at 5:30 p.m. Get tickets at actionforlife.org/events. Welcome back to Conversation with Father Orsi. I'm BC Cloutier. Father, I was talking about a special announcement, and now's probably a good time to talk about it. Father Orsi and I have, for the past several weeks, talked about doing some sort of an event to bring even more exposure to this issue. And of course, Sound of Freedom is bringing a lot of attention to this issue. So coming up in October 19th to be specific, Action for Life is sponsoring an evening with Jim Caviezel, where he will come to Naples, Florida, and he will be on stage talking about his experience making the movie and the events that led up to the making of this movie, which, by the way, was made 5 years ago. It took 5 years to find a distributor. Netflix passed. Disney acquired the company that had the rights to it, and Disney put it on the shelf, finally after 5 years. And it's interesting that this movie, which cost, if I recall, cost about $10 million to make, has generated $150 million in box office sales thus far.
You know what fascinates me about this is once people become conscious or aware of a horrendous problem like this, how willingly they decide that they too want to do something about it.
Yep.
They really do want to do something about it. And you might think, folks, and well, this doesn't happen in my neighborhood. We have a nice neighborhood. It's clean and there's no crime. But it's kind of Naples is a place like that, it's a beautiful, beautiful area. And you wouldn't think that there's sex trafficking, in our beautiful community here in Naples. Well, I was speaking to Lieutenant Wade Williams of the Sheriff's Department here in Naples. He's in charge of, they call it the Child Abuse Department. And Lieutenant Williams told me that the youngest child involved was 2 years old.
Oh my gosh.
2 years old. And why? He was being trafficked by his mother. And this could only be for drugs.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course.
In Lee County, it was a child, 6 years old, also being trafficked by a family member. So it's in everybody's neighborhood, and sometimes amongst people that you would least expect to be doing something like this. We had a case, as a matter of fact, it took place in Miami, but the young woman is living here now, and she was 14 years old. And she was told by her cousin, hey, I got this great guy who really wants to meet you. So, 14-year-old's a 14-year-old. Sure, let's go meet somebody. And, he wasn't a very nice guy. He drugged her. They had a drink. She got drugged. And he had his way with her. And she got pregnant. And thankfully, she brought the baby to term. They're both living right here now and doing very, very well. But there's an example of her cousin who introduced her to this evil man. And this guy, they caught him. He's behind bars right now, and I hope he stays there for a long time.
And we, Naples is paradise, right? I mean, Naples is, on a per capita basis, the richest city in America. It is clean, it is relatively crime-free, and yet these things are going on here. So imagine what happens in urban areas or in, it doesn't matter where you pick anywhere you want, upstate New York, where their crime is more rampant.
Right.
This stuff is going on undiscovered. There are kids who are victims who have no one to advocate for them.
Right.
That's just unacceptable in our society.
Right. That's why I thought, when we were discussing this project to try to bring Jim Caviezel here, I thought, we're doing it because we want to help put an end to child sex trafficking in our area. And we want to end it throughout the world. But we're doing this because with the funds that are being raised, our program is Action for Life. And life is from conception till natural death. And these children are God's children. And that comes across over and over again in the movie. And these are God's children, and God's children are not for sale. So this is to raise consciousness in our area, but it's also to, quite honestly, to make money and to use this money to put an end to child sex trafficking. And I'm sure, BC, that you have some real good ideas of what you want to do with the money, where it's going to go.
Well, it's interesting. There is a home in Lee County, which is Fort Myers, essentially. Collier County is Naples. There's a home in Lee County for young women who have been trafficked and have been rescued.
I think it's Magnolia House, isn't it?
I think that's right, yes. And now they want to establish another home in Collier County. And I haven't spoken to my board about this, so they'll have to see it on television. But I have a feeling that we would like to get involved in that in a really big way, based on what funding we can generate from this appearance with Jim Caviezel, which again is October 19th. And I guess I'll put a plug in for it. If you want more information, actionforlife.org/events. Everything is right there.
Yeah, and we're willing, very much willing, to cooperate with the sheriff's departments.
Absolutely.
Here in Collier and also in Lee County, and with the churches. As you well know, the Diocese of Venice in Florida has a trafficking office for women, and we want to work along with them too. So this project is something that should really be important to the community, because it is a problem within our community, and we have an obligation as human beings, okay, Christians, but first of all, human beings, to put an end to this horror that is using and abusing and destroying our little ones.
I'll tell you what else, Father. As a father and a grandfather, I look at my children and my grandchildren and I think I am so fortunate that none of them ended up in that situation. Now, we know that a lot of times the family's involved. Other times, these are runaways.
Right.
That run into the wrong person, and the next thing they know, they're in servitude.
Right. You know what, BC, what I found really, I mean, the whole thing is disturbing, that they could use a child for an encounter up to 20 times a day.
Yeah.
20 times a day. And it's about $90 a session. I mean, this is unbelievable.
These people will burn in hell.
I'm not God, but if he asked me for my advice, I tell him, hey, God, this is pretty bad. This is pretty bad. And I'm hoping that our audience, even the folks up there in Syracuse that are watching us, that you'll take this very seriously and try to do something about it in your own neighborhood, in your own town. Sometimes, you have to set out for the deep, go out, in those choppy waters and do something to help other people that are being abused, these children. And if you have any ideas, get a group together, talk to your church group, try to put something into action and, take the risk. Take the risk. And if you have your eyes, on Jesus especially, he's going to help you. He's going to just grab your hand. He's going to help you to get out of the mess that you're in and maybe save some lives, save some of these kids that are being, it's you know what it is, BC? It's like being murdered. They're murdering the souls of those children.
Amen. We'll be back right after this. Hi, BC Cloutier here. We've got some exciting news for you. On October 19th, at the Naples Grand Beach Resort, Action for Life presents Jim Caviezel live and in person.
Why are you doing it? Because God's children are not for sale.
The star of Sound of Freedom will be here in Naples, telling us all about the filming of the movie and the real-life experiences of Special Agent Tim Ballard.
Hear that? That's the sound of freedom.
Please join us for a lovely evening with dinner and beverages at the Naples Grand Beach Resort on Thursday, October 19th, beginning at 5:30 p.m. Get tickets at actionforlife.org/events. Welcome back to A Conversation with Father Orsi. I'm BC Cloutier. Father, final thoughts?
Gee, final thoughts on this one are just so depressing, but I have to speak about it anyway because it's such an important issue that we are dealing with. And it's something that I think should tug at the heartstrings of all of us who are watching this program today. The movie is extremely well done. It really portrays the problem as it is. As I said earlier, it takes place in Colombia, a South American country. Now, it's a little bit different in most parts of the world because we're not dealing here with the people who make files, as they say, and put these files on the internet. Especially they're putting them on Instagram. They're putting them on Twitter. They're putting them on all kinds of social media. But there are some children that are being kidnapped, and this is what takes place in Colombia, where the children are being kidnapped and then they are being brought into the sex trade operation. The movie shows a tremendous amount of courage on the part of Tim Ballard. He's a real life person who did rescue the children.
And continues to.
And continues to. As a matter of fact, we had hoped to have him on stage at the Grand on October the 19th. What happened, BC?
He's on a mission.
And, the first time he was on the mission, he was in danger of losing his job. I think he stepped out of the Homeland Security and he went on his own.
10 months before he qualified for a federal pension.
Yeah. This is amazing what this man did, the courage that he had. Plus, he had a wife and a family of his own. And I think I counted, he must have about 5 or 6 kids of his own. And when he was asked, why are you doing this? And he said, God told me to do it. So, hey, folks, God speaks to all of us. And if God is speaking to you in some way, please, please, please do something. Go see the movie. Try to raise consciousness amongst your friends and in your church and any civic organization that you belong to. And try to cooperate with the sheriff's office. Try to cooperate with those people who are trying to put an end to sex trafficking. And be careful about the social media, especially that is being used in your home, especially about that, because that's how most of it comes in. And a lot of young people get hooked on, and a lot of old people too, get hooked on pornography, child pornography. And not only that, do they get hooked, but sometimes there are people who are influencing them. They call influencers, and say, hey, meet me at the mall. That's always a famous thing. Meet me at the mall. You're lonely. Your parents don't understand you. Come on, I'm going to really take good care of you. And they begin to what they call groom them. And they buy them gifts and they take them out, to special places. And all of a sudden, they got the kid. And now it's time for payback. And that's what they do. They're so evil that now they say, hey, look, I took care of you. Now you have to take care of me. Or they'll even get the kid hooked on drugs so that the kid has to stay with them just to get the drugs that they need. This is, folks, this is evil. This is evil. So we all have an obligation to put an end to sex trafficking, especially, not just all the time, but our children. Please go see the movie and cry a little bit. Go ahead and cry a little bit. Sometimes, that crying, it makes a big difference as to how you're going to proceed in the work that you're going to do to put an end to an evil.
Thank you for tuning in today. Join us again next week, same time, same place, for a conversation with Father Orsi. Until then, thanks for watching, and God bless.